breaking loss in the NFC Championship last year to the San Francisco 49ers, blowing a 17-point halftime lead that ended a magical run that the whole city of Detroit was on as well. For many players and fans included, it is easy to say, well, they will just be back next year, but that is not always the case. Let's take a look back at some other teams that thought the same thing about running it back after losing a heartbreaker on the doorstep of a trip to the Super Bowl. The 2020 Bills and Packers, 2019 Titans, 2017 Vikings, 2015 Cardinals, 2014 Colts, 2010 Bears and Jets, 2009 Vikings and Jets, and the 2007 Chargers. And that's just a few. But I think when it comes to the Lions, they can and will be different from those teams I just mentioned. Why? Mostly because of one man, their head coach, Dan Campbell. Campbell is a football guy's guy. He's a tough-nosed dude who made a name for himself with his opening press conference with the team.
We're going to kick you in the teeth, and when you knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
He has reshaped the identity of the Lions, and it is one that has allowed the city to fall in love with the team again. Campbell was able to do this by creating a run-first team that dominated the trenches. He rebuilt the offensive line, which is highlighted by young star tackle Penei Sewell. Pair this with his ultra-aggressive coaching and game management, and you get the brand new Lions.
I don't see bust. I see Super Bowl. I don't know what the bust is, so.
Yet Campbell also knows that this isn't going to be an easy task and that they will have to be even better than they were last year if they want to make another run at the Lombardi in February.
Now to do that, you better win the division. You got to give yourself the best odds you can, right? You need to win the division. You need the best seeding you possibly do. Okay, well, how do you do that? Well, you got to start with where we're at now. You got to go back to work. You got to do all the little things, which to this point our guys have done, man. They've been here for offseason. They're grinding. They're working. We're in good shape. We're strong. We're physical. We're explosive. And we're just in the beginning of this.
Like Campbell said, they're just at the beginning of this. For some, it's the beginning of another year in the NFL, but for others, it's their first. And I think it's some of those guys who are going to make a major impact on this team. I mentioned before that Campbell has built this team around running the football and winning in the trenches to be the engine. It has set up everything else for the team, but one area they lack consistent play from is the defensive side of the ball. The Lions were 27th versus the pass last year, and it was one of the main reasons they failed to get off the field and get consistent stops. They gave up the second most passes of over 20 yards last year with 34, and also ranked 6th worst in passing TDs allowed with 28. But this might no longer be the case thanks to their first 2 draft picks. With their first round pick, the Lions traded up and selected a corner from Alabama, Terrion Arnold. It's safe to say that Detroit loves their Alabama players, making it 3 years in a row of their first round pick being a Crimson Tide alum. Arnold is versatile. He can play both the inside and outside corner position and isn't afraid to get involved in the run game either, as he is a physical corner. They doubled down in the secondary, taking another corner in the second round as well, this time being Ennis Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri. Outside of having a sick name, Rakestraw will definitely have an opportunity to compete right away and fill some holes in the secondary. He only allowed 1 touchdown all of last year at Mizzou and was only targeted on 8% of his coverage snaps, so he has potential to be a major lockdown. It has been said that defense wins championships, and the Lions might have finally found some guys that can contribute to that. Even in this new era of high-scoring NFL games, when it comes down to it in the playoffs, teams that are able to get key stops and can also run the ball effectively seem to always come out on top. The Lions have proven they can do one of those 2 things, and now it's time they do the other. But even with all this emphasis on improving the defense and how it was the side of the ball that slacked a bit more than the other, we can't forget about the offense and the man under center, Jared Goff. Goff found a new home with the Lions and was able to rejuvenate his career. Goff has played some really efficient football while in Detroit, including a career-high 67.3 completion percentage. He also threw for the 3rd most yards for his career last season with over 4,500 and notched 30 passing touchdowns. One area Goff did struggle with though was interceptions, as he threw 12, which was the highest during his time in Detroit. But Goff is looking forward to getting back at the grind and knows that they can't come into the season being complacent.
What could possibly hurt us is thinking like, oh, we'll just show up week 1 and do it again. I don't believe for a second that'll be our attitude, but that's like human nature to think that way. So he's been on us, and we appreciate it, and we've been on ourselves. We've been holding each other to a higher standard and higher accountability, and it's been fun to see leaders emerge, and I'm trying to every day to be better myself. And
just like Goff, I expect the Lions to come into this season hungry and not think just because they made it far last year, they will do it again. Their strength of schedule is middle of the pack, but they do have some tough games that will leave them battle tested come playoff time. Part of how well their record might be might depend on a lot of the progression and growth of the other young teams in their division. Nonetheless, I have the Lions going 12-5 and winning the NFC North. I see the Lions starting off the year hot with back-to-back wins at home versus teams they played in the playoffs last season. I think they'll make it to 5-0 before suffering their first loss on the road versus the Cowboys. I think they will go 5-1 in their division, sweeping both the Bears and Vikings, but splitting versus the Packers. I also think they'll pick up wins versus AFC South opponents like the Jags and Colts, but suffer losses to the Texans, Bills, and Niners. I think that a late loss in the year to the Niners will have the Lions extremely motivated going into the playoffs, which is scary when Dan Campbell is already a great motivator and fiery head coach. Now, as for the playoffs, I think the Lions will make another deep run, and this time, I think the outcome could be different. Having a year of playoff experience will be crucial for a lot of their players and will help them realize where they came up short. They addressed some of this through the draft and offseason acquisitions, but it will also give Dan Campbell a chance to maybe tweak some of his decisions. Nonetheless, the Lions might be closer to a Super Bowl than they ever have been this year, and I am pumped to see how it plays out. Let me know in the comments down below how you think they will do this season. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.